Hello everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. EWT, Energy Web Foundation, is on our radar today. Before we go into chart, let's just have a quick overview of Energy Web's movements around some articles here, but also we're going to look at the energy crisis in general anyway and see how these solutions are already here for a problem that has been created pretty much out of nothing. Do check out our other videos as well. This is actually quite a fitting topic because the last video we did was XTCs, and that was done by the roadside because I ran out of fuel. And that leads us nicely onto these topics here, particularly around the fuel crisis here in the UK. Why is there a fuel crisis? Well, part of the problem, apparently the reliance on imported energy and lack of energy storage. Interesting. So it's taken us a good 34 years to realise that we don't have enough storage facilities. Russia, of course, provided just 40% of natural gas they supplied in January 2012. Okay, so I'm pretty sure we get our gas from other places as well as that. Here we go, the North Sea, of course, which is a big application of fuel in general for us. This is why I'm still confused as to why it's so expensive. But then, of course, what we've also got is the craziness of the protests going on. Now, just for the record, I'd just like to add that the protests going on right now here in the UK, this is it if it plays. This is it. This is what's stopping all our petrol tankers coming through. Extinction Rebellion. Now, what's this going to do? It's going to irate a lot of people. People sit there on the news and they go, oh, this is an absolute disgrace. They're not, how dare they? Oh, they're stopping us from getting fuel. Ask yourself the question, right, bear in mind, right, this is outside some depots right now, stopping people getting fuel to the stations, okay? Caused by climate protests blocking major fuel depots. Please ask yourself, right, now, I'm all up for the debates and protesting and standing up for what you believe in. But just for the record, our petrol is being stopped because someone is sitting on a bunch of sticks and logs, and some people are sitting on plastic deck chairs, and the others are just sitting around on their knees. You're telling me that these guys are stopping our fuel coming through? Get a grip, guys. Understand these are all put in place on purpose. One, to get anger in the public, and two, to create a problem that they already have solutions for. Now, when we had furlough, guys, by the way, a couple of years ago, or a year or so ago, in fact, I think some of it's still ongoing. People were like, oh, this is brilliant. Yeah, printing money's come out of thin air. Of course they're going to claw it back, but they're not going to do it via tax because they know that people get really annoyed by paying more tax. So what they're going to do is get it elsewhere in tax and hidden systems. Of course, fuel, I would say, I don't know the exact statistics, but I'm pretty sure 60-70% of fuel prices, including flights, go and check out flights when you book flights and see the tax breakdown. Like, majority of the costs are taxed. They will claw it back however they please. Trust me. And as I said, you're telling me that the whole entire UK ecosystem of fuel to the stations is being blocked by people like this, sitting there with bobble hats on sticks. Guys, come on. And then, of course, the narrative of things going around the world. And then, of course, stock prices reducing. The price has to go up, this, that, and the other. People are rushing to get fuel for the Easter weekend. Lo and behold, everyone's getting stuck, breakdowns, this, that, and the other. Absolutely crazy. The cost is phenomenal here in the UK. I want to know in the comments below what's going on in your country. And I'm getting back to the point about Energy Web shortly in a second. Petrol and diesel supplies running low in the south ahead of Easter weekend as Portsmouth pump closes. This is one of the famous ones actually in Portsmouth for Asda. Very popular. It's always one of the cheapest ones. But it's for sure closed. Now, this is crazy. 27.6 million car journeys expected to take place over the Easter weekend. What do you think is going to happen to that number? It's going to diminish substantially because people can't be bothered, or they're like, fuel crisis, this and that. The cost is crazy for no reason either. And what's going to happen, guys, trust me, these prices, everyone's going to start going, 165 is cheap, when considering like a while back it was like 120 or even 109. I remember in the pandemic it was obviously lower for understandable reasons because no one was using it, blah blah blah. And even way back when I was a kid. You talk about inflation and this, that, and the other, that's fine. But what happens, guys, because as I mentioned, big chunk of this is tax. This will become probably the new cheap price, okay? And then all of a sudden, you'll get these 180s, 190s. It might drop down to maybe 140 or something. We'll still sit there going, this is absolutely amazing. And not remember, like 2 years ago, 5 years ago, it was even substantially lower than this. This is what it is. It's the psychology behind humans. They know what they are doing. I'm clever enough to understand. I just pay it because I need to get a stay somewhere, this, that, and the other. It doesn't really bother me because I work from home most of the time and I'm very rarely use the car. But for those that use the car for work and this, that, and the other, think how much money this is costing them. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting of the government and this, that, and the other. And I say, well, why are they allowing this to happen? Well, I'll tell you why they're allowing it to happen, because they're making a load of money out of it. And you honestly think that they are not going to be able to stop these crazy protests at the depots with all their banners and their plastic chairs, and there's one police car there? Please ask, and what's going to happen, 95% of the population will watch these news channels and go, oh my goodness, did you see the protests at the depot? Oh, this is why our fuel's going up. Really? You think they are stopping the entire fuel system coming through? Where are all the fuel tankers waiting on the other side of the gate to come through? There aren't any. Oh, these police officers, yeah. See your papers, please. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good, we can get one through. Brilliant. Yeah, by the way, guys, there's a bit of a problem here. As you can see, everyone's stuck on chairs in front of the gate. Absolute nonsense. Rubbish. Price cuts, barrels, blah, blah, blah. Why are we talking about this? Because we've got energy crisis as well, of course, through gas. We're now trying to push heat pumps to UK houses. Of course, that is another contracted subsidiary through the UK government, of course, trying to remove the previous systems, put heat pumps in, which are even worse, and claim that that's going to help us sustainably and efficiently. What it's going to do is connect to your smart meters and connect with the CBDC systems in 2-3 years time and fully control if you do or don't do things. You will be decided upon whether you can get energy or not this week, and how much you're going to pay for it. This is all coming, guys. It's the downside to blockchain in the wrong hands, and also, the situation of decentralization and centralization. This is a tough topic because, of course, Energy Web is forcing itself through decentralization, but is also working through the likes of Energy Web, through the likes of the European Commission and other organizations around the world to implement its solution to these systems that are in place, or indeed going to be in place. Of course, look at the partners of Energy Web, actually substantial. This is nowhere near updated. There's a lot more added, as we've covered in this year. Based out of Germany, Energy Web is one of my favorite projects to be investing in because I know what's coming. I know what's coming in the next 2-3 years, and you see all these narratives building up further and further, and it's just going to collapse to the point where they go, we need a new solution. What's that going to be? And then they bring in the blockchain, and hey presto, everything's all good. But of course, it may not be good for most people out there, but it certainly be good for people who invest in it. And that's why I'm invested, because I'm sat there going, this is nothing you can stop. So I'm going to make money out of it, and hopefully I can help the world once I've got super rich, because that's only really way you can change things these days. Unfortunately, that is simply the logical method behind it. And Energy Web also helping along the fact of DIDs, digital identifiers or digital IDs. Is a big topic that we cover all the time, and this is something, especially with Steadin, like this was about the SIM card and pre-existing SIM card mobile numbers being utilized as your identifier. IoT assets, we talk about Internet of Things as a big thing moving forward. EVs, guys, what else do you think this fuel system crisis is going to force? There's more and more electric cars than ever before. There's delays for electric cars being produced because there's such demand, but all of these things that people sit there going, oh, do you know what, I'm fed up with this, I'm going to get an electric car. The more people with electric cars, the more people will have electric cars that have SIM cards in them or systems in there that will be on the overall blockchain system. The more people you have, the more control you have, the more ability you have to stop and start things as and when you please, or based on behavioral patterns, on activity patterns, the better for the ownership of the system. This is where it's all going to go down the line. If you put the 2 and the 3 together, this is where it all goes. Energy Web is also helping with hopefully trying to bring more aspect of solar panel energy, battery capacity energy, and all these things to become more sustainable and more efficient the way we use energy and the way we trade carbon. Again, there are two sides to this coin depending on which hands it ends up in, and for sure this is something that Energy Web is really pushing right now. Loads of amazing partnerships. We covered the Vodafone one a few weeks back. Again, EV cars, Vodafone chipsets, the ability to pay for things as you're going about, but of course the cars drive themselves and they will drive seamlessly through wireless charging mechanisms around the world and around the streets, around the roads, because that's what the system is going to be putting in place. And you won't have to get your app out, you won't have to get a card out, because it will all just be paid because you've entered the card using KYC with your facial recognition, with identifiers, and off you go on your journey. The whole system, the whole world is going to go automated, guys. I'm talking about supply chain, I'm talking about agriculture, transportation, everything you can possibly think of will become autonomous, and it will be through blockchain systems such as ones like Energy Web are creating. So this is where I'm getting my point across, guys, for as an investment perspective. It's not financial advice, but you must start understanding the narratives: food sustainability, food supply chain, fuel supply, energy supply, all of these things. Can you not see that they're building towards the next few years? I've covered the BIS projects, Helvetia, Jura, and all these ones. We're using Quant, R3, Corda, XTC, Stellar, Ripple. The deadline's 2025. I'm not saying that this is an exact date that we're looking at for everything to be switched on, but all the pilots, all the trials finish in 2025. And do you not think it's very convenient that all these crazy narratives are coming out just a couple of years before? The ability for cashless society, the ability to have more passports digitalized, our IDs digitalized, the automation of everything, wallet providers, issuance, the whole aspect of CBDCs coming in. Come on, everyone. Don't let these protesters on plastic chairs and sticks fool you on the news. Bear in mind what media and news channels are. It's a circus, a fueling of arguably, not necessarily propaganda. I mean, some of it's good news, right? But guys, just please open minds and start to think about how can you get out of this nonsense. Don't sit there getting angry, confused, and concerned. Obviously be concerned because it affects your life, unfortunately. But what I mean is start acting yourselves personally and go and think about how you can get out of this ridiculous system moving forward, because it's all coming and it will all get worse. This is all going to get worse. And the answers will be blockchain. 90% of the countries and the world's and the people's will have no idea what blockchain is. They'll just accept what comes for them. But I'm not doing that. I learned that in 2015. Ever since, I've been fighting and pushing myself to get out into a decentralized full system and get out of this system before it all begins. Make a load of money out of it. Do a runner. But also help the world, because I have ambitions to help with homelessness, with blockchain. I have many other really cool ideas that I want to help the world with, but I need the money. And I know that these things are coming and they are on the cusp of occurring very soon. Guys, we're going to chuck ourselves into the chart of EWT. So from a price point perspective, this is where I'm very interested right now. It's back at these lower regions. We had a very nice dip down here on the 24th of February, if you remember, just down to that $4 mark. Came up nicely, retracted ourselves. We had a beautiful run up, which we covered a few weeks back, taking our price points from around $4.50 up to nearly $7. Absolutely brilliant. I took advantage of some of that, but I was waiting for the way down for buying opportunities, and we are literally bang back down here on this fib retracement level, also matching back here, which we covered in the last video as well, around July time. So suggesting that we had this big over purchasing power come down, and now it's very much magnetizing itself along this area. We've had the drop down, we had the rejection significantly, and it's almost like we're stabilized here for EWT at this moment in time around $4.50 again. Now, can this come down low? Of course it can potentially come down low, but I think there's a lot of money in EWT, and we've got to understand where it is in the process of its life cycle. We're in probably the transitional pilot stage right now of Energy Web, amongst other DLT and blockchain systems utilized in a full world environment. This is a proper utility project, guys. This is going to be used by a multitude of governments around the world and energy companies. We already know these guys are partnered with EDF, the likes of Shell, etc. Think about it. So this price point, people go, it's quite expensive because you're comparing it to the likes of Stellar or something like that. It's 20, 25 cents. You've got to understand that yes, it is expensive, but to that extent of like how much is per token, but you've got to look beyond that. What is this going to be valued at? I could honestly see like EWT being at least like $200 in a few years' time when it all gets switched on, similar to like how Quant will develop, and all these other projects related around CBDCs, the automation of blockchain around the world. I'm just talking about these are the proper projects, guys. And EWT, in my opinion, is definitely one of those. You just have to follow everything that they're doing, all the partnerships they're doing, and all the integrations, more importantly, with the systems. And especially the fact, of course, they're interlaced and interlinked right now with World Economic Forum. We all know where those go. So I'm really excited. It's back to a price point here that is interesting me again, and I will be buying up some later today. I'm just waiting to see if we have a bit more of a further dip down to 450 as well, so I've got a couple of buy orders around there. I always have a lower region down here in case we have like a Bitcoin leverage fail, so I do have some USDT orders back down here around 420. We're quite surprised if we do come back down to that area again, but for now the significance is around this 470 area. If we look at the indicators here, we can see the selling pattern, almost the wave finishing, or will deem to be finishing, and the MACD is narrowing as well, this orange and blue here. So we're on the verge of it potentially switching back into a stabilization period and maybe into an upward trend pattern. We've taken the RSI from the 14-day here at 67. We're now floating back down at 38. A beautiful buy point, in my opinion. Not as low as it was back here on the 6th of April, where we hit 34. But what's nice to see is this slow trend upwards. New higher lows. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that this wave isn't finished just yet. It might be a few days out, but you might start seeing a good incremental intake pattern, like something similar here perhaps. Of course, there's still loads of narratives around the world. Still people are taking money out or being cautious of how they invest, understandably and totally reasonable as well. I'm doing the same because unfortunately all the things I do know are happening or going to happen, you still got to understand that we all have lives to live, right? So just be cautious, do your research and think heavily about the things that you do when you're investing. And only invest what you can afford to lose, as they say. So just be strategic and cautious. But for me, right now, this price point here, 14 days showing 38, and the 28 days looking great as well at 42. If that comes down to around 40, even better. But I think we saw that probably back here as well. So I'd be surprised if we do see that, but it's, as I said, it's a nice stabilized price point here for me to add more EWT. I'm staking mine on the new consortia relay, I believe powered by, or indeed interlaced with, Polkadot system. Really cool. It's not a big APR, I don't think, or APY as the previous one. That was, I guess, a trial system for them. Very successful. I mean, the amount of EWT that was staked was incredible in such a short space of time. But we're now on this one that goes on until December. We'll do a video on how to stake EWT in the next video, hopefully in a few days' time. But I do believe that for sure there's an uptake like there was the rest of the market. I think some of that was for sure probably people putting into staking. But me, I'm a long-term holder. Like I said, 2025 is for sure a visionary aspect in my mind of an interesting point in time where I do believe as well big mass adoption will come in. But for me, at least those are key areas where I'll be doing some big selling in 2025. But right now, I feel like this is a great opportunity to accumulate an absolute diamond in the energy sector, but also for the world, if you want to call it the NWO. Some people like to call it that. I just call it the transition of humanity. It's nothing you can do about it. It's the way the world is going, the way the world is. Accept that fact and then learn how to make money and decisions off that. But like I said, great price point for EWT. This is the next fighting point up here around 520, which we saw challenged quite a few times, to be fair, over the last few days. But we're now back down this area, so I do anticipate maybe a slight drop down below. You could see some potential like around 460 again, and we might just test this area a bit more before we take ourselves up and take another stab at this area here, of which we've seen some good volatility around the last few months. And I particularly like this area here, end of January. It showed rejection here, took itself up, wasn't quite ready, brought itself back down. So I do anticipate in the next couple of weeks for us to test this area properly again at 520. So for me, I'm buying down this area because I do think there's some good advantages coming in the near future. And finally, indicator wise as well, up still on the week, just about. The 3 months is slowly but surely reducing itself to that 0 break-even mark, and the 1 month is showing some strong positivity as well. We'd like to see that go all into green, hopefully, in the next month or so. Let's see how it plays out. But guys, I'm going to wrap that up there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next EWT Energy Web video. Goodbye.